Hello, everybody, and welcome to coverage of our first quarterfinals of the Fall Brawl Top 8 for 2024. I'm Michael Hoyp. I'm joined by Jay Lansdaal. How's it going, Jay?
Doing all right. How are you doing?
Good.
Enjoying that Thanksgiving afterglow,
Yes. Black Friday. We don't have any black cards, I think, in the 75s that we're seeing today, but we'll make it work.
Yeah. There's a few mentions of black cards somewhere on some of the cards, but I don't think they'll come up today.
Yeah, so we do have a matchup between Replenish and Enchantress. So these are piloted by Danny DeRouche and then Ivan von Lennep. So I have some quick profile stuff for each of these players. I'll bring that up. So Danny DeRouche, he is a freelance data consultant out of Eindhoven, the Netherlands. He finished the first seed, so he went 8-0 in the Swiss. So if you're not familiar with the Fall Brawl setup, there are batches. So the first batch, you have 4 players, 4 opponents, you play them, and then the second batch is based on how well you did in that first batch. So if you went 3-1, you'll be playing against players that were 3-1 or 4-0. If you went 4-0, you'll be playing against players with similar records. So Danny cruised through those 2 batches and took the top seed. So he gets rewarded to be on the play for any match that he starts. He says his Replenish deck is favored against the Rock, Elves, Enchantress, and Black or anything mid-range decks. So quite a bevy of decks. I mean, we've seen this Replenish deck kind of rise in the popularity in the pre-modern scene, and Danny, I think, has been like tinkering with the list for a while, and he's really comfortable with the Replenish deck. So it'll be exciting to see it up like a really good pilot with the deck in action.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess good news for Danny. One of the decks that he calls, he is favored against.
Yes, yeah, it's always nice. It's a really good feeling when you say like, what are your good matchups is something that you face in a top 8. So that's always a good feeling. He does say he struggles against counter heavy decks like Mono Blue Tide or faster combo decks like Blue Red Drawer. There are some Tides in this top 8, but no Blue Red Devour. So I think Danny is liking his chances in this top 8. He has noted the Exalted Angel as the sideboard. I've seen that in and out of lists, and it looks like Danny has voted to play that, and it's been very good for him.
Yeah, nice. I think so. Given that he's from Eindhoven, the Netherlands, I don't know if Danny the Rooij is a sort of a nickname, but I think in the Netherlands they say de Rooij.
Oh, okay. I will trust you for sure. Yeah, let me get the profile up for Ivan real quick. As my dog is real loud.
Excited to join. And that set off my dog. As we struggle with some dog activity on both ends here. Sorry for the people on stream.
All right, I'm unmuted for now. We'll see if my dog can behave. I have a quick profile up for Ivan. So he squeaked in at 6-2. He's the only 6-2 in this top 8 with the ace seed. He's from Nuremberg, Germany, and playing the Enchantress deck. So we were talking to Ivan, and he is relatively new to Magic. He picked it up recently, and pre-modern, obviously. But he really quickly saw the Enchantress deck, like within, I think he said, the second round of him playing pre-modern, and he's like, this is something I need to do. It did something super powerful, and he's been piloting ever since. So kind of how we talked about Danny being really familiar with this deck, Ivan also very familiar with Enchantress. Says it's pretty solid against most decks, though it loses hard to Replenish. So that's the one problem thing. He said they did play in the Swiss. He was able to take one game, but he said everything kind of just lined up. So he doesn't have his hopes up for this match. And he notes that after LobsterCon, he has been really high on Carpet of Flowers since a lot of blue decks. So really quick brief, I'm going to jump over to the decks for our players. We're kind of rushing things because our players are on kind of a time crunch, and we want to get things kicked off, as I'm sure a lot of the people watching want to watch a bunch of Magic anyways. So let's bring up the deck list real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I have Danny's Replenish list up. So I think this is kind of, I guess, the two notes, they're really subtle differences, I guess, between the Replenish lists of how many Swords to Plowshares are you playing main? So Danny is playing 4. And then there's a couple main deck copies of Stifle. And I think the main interaction is just mostly the Parallax Tide, but I guess Parallax Wave also could come into play. I mean, there's also a general utilization of just Stifle, of stifling someone's fetch land might be important in certain matchups. So those are like the kind of the exciting things we'll say, but the rest of it is like pretty stock. Is there anything that stands out about this Replenish list to you, Jay?
So obviously he mentioned the 4 Exalted Angels in the sideboard being kind of his MVP. But a card that I like a lot in this matchup, I think, is having the 4 Orim's Chants. I think those will be a nice quick swap for him after sideboard, getting those Swords to Plowshares out and then a bunch of Orim Chants in. That looks pretty good to me.
Okay. Yeah. I'll bring up the other list. And so we have Ivan's list up. So Ivan had said that he has been enjoying collecting the foil cards, as you can see, pretty foiled out Enchantress list. So I am going to bring up my text list of this one. So looking at this, so some people have talked about Mirri's Guile versus Sylvan Library. I'm a big believer in Mirri's Guile, just of how it kind of fits in. That the 1 mana is a lot different than 2 mana in this deck, and it kind of, you need that baseline to get off the ground, and I think Mirri's Guile does a good job of that. I know Ivan had mentioned in his profile that he also thought the same thing. Having Mobilization, I guess, is a win condition that isn't always seen in the Enchantress list. I've seen that in and out. That's a difference. Having a main deck Sacred Ground, I guess, against like the Armageddon type cards, that's not always something that's in the main. And then I've seen a varying number of Solitary Confinements. Ivan has 2 in the main deck, and he has another one in the sideboard. So yeah, I guess if you're not familiar how this deck works, he's going to look to put Argothian Enchantress or Enchantress Presence in play, so that all his cards kind of equal more cards, that he's going to draw a card after playing stuff. And then eventually, like, Sarah Sanctum will generate a bunch of mana. And then kind of how he wins is trivial, I guess. He doesn't really care whether it's locking someone out with Parallax Wave and Opalescence or making a bunch of creatures with Mobilization. Just kind of finding a win condition isn't the priority. It's just kind of getting that engine and that a lock going. So we'll see if Ivan can do that. He has some Seal Cleansings which kind of interact, but in general, I think he kind of has to go faster and over the top, Danny, which I think is a little tough, because I think in general his deck is a little bit slower than the Replenish list. So, which is probably why he notes that his deck, this is one of its worst matchups. So,
yep.
Is there anything you want to say, or should we jump down to the match?
I think let's get the players look ready. So let's jump down there.
All right. If you want to let them know that we can get started, we have Danny on the left with the Replenish list, and then Ivan on the right, playing the Enchantress. Let me just flip around things from Ivan's perspective. Oh no, I have it wrong again. I didn't need to flip it. Here we go. All right, players will kick things off. So Danny will get to be on the play since he is the first seed. We are going to be playing a best of 3 for this top 8. Well, not necessarily for this top 8, but for this quarterfinals. So I think players are on a bit of a time crunch, and I think Ivan was okay with that, because he's like, he just is not very confident in this matchup, and he's like, it just makes sense. Let's just play the best of 3. That makes sense. So a turn 2 Attunement off an Ancient Tomb for Danny. He'll put that into play, while Ivan had that turn 1 Mirri's Guile off a Forest.
Yeah. Danny was on a mulligan, noticed right before we started, but still, it's a solid start with the soul land, 2 mana land. And so then Ivan here getting things started, not with his, I think, favorite start is obviously an Argothian Enchantress, but we have a Sterling Grove here to protect the Mirri's Guile, but maybe more likely find another enchantment at some point.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see if I can figure out my card fetcher. Apparently I'm having some issues with that, so might not have that available. We will see.
And so Danny starts his turn by activating the Attunement, discarding Seal of Cleansing, I think Parallax Wave, Ancient Tomb, and then replaying the Attunement. But no land draw. And so passing it back to Ivan, who is looking at his Mirri Guile pile. So yeah, I think Ivan, trying to get something started here, some sort of engine going. The goal with Enchantress really is to build up that board presence. 2 Sterling Groves is interesting. Those do protect each other, making it hard for Danny to interact with those things. Although I think in game 1 doesn't have a ton of stuff to interact with individual enchantments anyway. And so Danny again on his turn, picking up the Attunement and activating. And this time discarding the Attunement, as well as another Attunement and a Seal of Cleansing. I guess those need Seal of Cleansing's not that great when there's 2 Sterling Groves in play on the opposite side.
So we've seen the aggressive use of Attunement, and I guess it could mean 2 things. One, that is Danny doesn't have a resource like lands, but he's been discarding them a couple of times. And then the other thing is, I guess if he's looking for a quick combo, and I think that's probably more the reason that he's digging for one of the pieces and is looking to finish off. Because right now we have the tides. Do we have the Opalescence in there?
I haven't seen an Opalescence. No,
Okay.
I've seen the waves, the white ones.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see a tide. I think it's 2 Attunements in there.
So I think that may be the missing pieces. I would think that there might be a Replenish in the hand, and then we're looking for an Opalescence.
Yeah. So another Frantic Search move into the bin there, which if he was digging further, maybe he would have kept that, but no, there we go.
All right, so we do see the Replenish, but this is not necessarily just game over that we see a lot of the times. So this is more of a value because of the attunements that he'll get them back and can draw some extra cards. The Seal of Cleansing's a little bit too late because given that there's 2 Sterling Groves. Since all Ivan's enchantments have Shroud, thanks to both of those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with this Replenish, right, gets back a bunch of stuff. It gets the attunements back that he discarded last turn. I'm kind of curious because like the waves and the Seal of Cleansings don't do very much here. What do you think Danny is, why is he using such a crucial piece like a Replenish here?
So I think it's likely that he has a second Replenish in his hand, and he's using these attunements, like just to get back these attunements and looking for the Opalescence. That would be my guess. I guess even, yeah, and because he's seen like, okay, if your enchantments have Shroud, then my Parallax Wave and Opalescence like won't be able to exile all your creatures because the enchantments will become creatures and then they still have Shroud. So he's looking for, I guess Tide would also be another card that he's looking to play. Right now he only has 1 blue mana, but like, so he's looking either to the best ways that he can interact with Ivan from this perspective. So my guess is he has another Replenish and he's just looking for another piece.
Yeah. And so Ivan gets his own Seal of Cleansing in play as Danny untaps, takes some counters off the Parallax Waves, and goes and activates another attunement.
All right, I got my card fetcher up and running, so now I can show some of these cards that these players are using. See the Attunement, which Danny. So a lot of times that I've seen the Replenish list, like the first activation of Attunement is pretty easy. It's not too bad to discard the cards. The second one sometimes is painful, but we've seen is this the third or is this the fourth?
Third.
The third. Yeah. And so the card disadvantage definitely like kind of comes into play, and we've seen him use a Frantic Search as well. So it gets a little bit trickier, I think, to discard certain cards when you're running on less resources. But here we see that fourth activation of that Attunement.
Then he does not seem to care. Card disadvantage, card disadvantage. I don't know.
So I guess one nice thing is like you're in a matchup where Ancient Tomb can be kind of tapped at will. Like your life total is not really pressured in this, and so you're at 4 mana with just 3 lands, so that you are able to pitch an extra land and not really like worry about that. So looks like he activated the Seal Cleansing on his own Parallax Waves. That's because of the Sterling Groves giving Shroud. So that way, when he casts this new Replenish, that they come back with a full 5 fading counters.
Yeah, and this time there is that Parallax Tide also.
Yes, that is the biggest difference between this first Replenish and that second one, is now this is going to be able to disrupt Ivan a lot by getting rid of his lands. Is this something where you're able to just get rid of? I guess, yeah, you get rid of all of them because you do the Seal Cleansing. I was thinking that, I'm like, do you have to just kind of hope to draw a Stifle, or are you just looking to buy some time? But yeah, with the Seal Cleansings in play, you can permanently remove them.
Yeah, there is a Windswept Heath on the other side, so there's a little bit of a, I have to target the fetch, then you can fetch in response, but there should be enough still to get rid of all the lands here.
So is Danny holding one of the seals? What does he have in his left hand?
So in his left hand is a seal. Yeah. So he activated the Parallax Tide, targeting 4 of the lands, and then activated the seal to destroy the Parallax Tide in response.
Okay.
And so Ivan is responding now with the fetch. I'm thinking maybe Danny didn't recognize that as a fetch initially because it's the newer art.
Yes. Yes.
So had to use another counter after that, but that still works.
I mean, if it's going away anyways, like I guess that you could use the counter to maybe untap one of your lands, but
yeah.
So does the Seal Cleansing from Ivan, I guess that means if one Opalescence came, he'd be able to remove it.
Yep.
So, I mean, with all things considered, I think Ivan is in a good defensive stance of being able to prevent what Danny wants to do, given the shrouds from the enchantments and then the Seal Cleansing. But that doesn't necessarily mean that Ivan's in a good spot. Like Danny still has the ability to churn through his deck with these attunements and kind of find more copies of Parallax Tide, or if he just has 2 Opalescence, then I think he's in a good spot. So here we see a third Replenish. I don't know how many Opalescence, if any of them, are in the graveyard right now.
Just one. I saw one at least. Just went on the first Attunement activation. But yeah, it is kind of
the full 4. I guess you can. Oh no, because it's other enchantments. The Opalescence would not be able to get waved out.
Mm-hmm. So lots of enchantments on Danny's side. We're gonna organize here. But yeah, it is pretty interesting with just the one Opalescence, and Ivan being somewhat defensive. Yes, there's a lot of stuff now, but Danny cannot just remove all the enchantments from Ivan, as you mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
If Ivan now gets rid of the Opalescence, Danny still cannot really attack, right? Cannot put any pressure on. We've already used 3 replenishes. I don't know, maybe some point we run out of time, cannot find the last one. There's a shot here, I think, for Ivan.
Yeah, so there's I guess so one thing. So while there's only one Replenish left in the deck, Danny will likely be able to have the ability to hard cast an Opalescence that he draws if he has another white source. I guess his biggest limiter, I think, right now is just his life total, actually, that he can only tap that Ancient Attunement like a certain number of times. We are showing that was mana. Okay.
Yeah.
That was exiling mana and then exiling the Parallax Tide to untap it. So
I think basically in response to the Seal of Cleansing trying to destroy the Opalescence.
Okay.
We're making infinite mana by using Parallax Wave to remove the Tide, and then using Parallax Wave on itself to remove the Parallax Wave to get the Tide back, which took his lands underneath it. So
so the infinite mana will only, assuming this is an upkeep and not in a main phase, which I don't know where we were at. I guess it wasn't. I guess it was in the main phase. I was gonna say if it was in the upkeep, then you would only be able to use that infinite mana. But I guess you'd be able to do it again in the main phase. Oh, no, the Opalescence would have been gone. So that must have been just in the main phase that was done, and not during the upkeep. I guess that would have been the only difference, like timing wise.
I mean, and even that, like even if it was so I don't know if it. So it seemed like Danny put all the stuff into play. Then Ivan took an action with the Seal of Cleansing. I don't know if that was in the turn or in his own upkeep.
Yeah. So the intuition got 3 Opalescence, and it looked like that Danny had access to that extra mana because of the trick that he showed, and he was able to put another Opalescence in play, and that would lock things up, at least to the point where. I mean, I guess it wasn't a full lock, but he had a bunch of enchantments that can attack, and Ivan is just at a overwhelmingly bad poor position. And attacking with active enchantments is the way that Danny takes on the first game.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at the sideboard for these players. I think I first have Ivan's up. Let me pull up the text list and read it off to our audience. There are 2 Aura of Silence, 1 Carpet of Flowers, 1 Karmic Justice, 1 Ray of Revelation, 1 Sacred Ground, 1 Solitary Confinement, 1 Sphere of Law, 3 Swords of Plowshares, 2 Tsabo's Web, and 2 Xanted Swarm. So 2 Aura of Silence and a Ray of Revelation. Those seem like cards I'd be interested in. Karmic Justice, and I'm trying to think if Solitary Confinement is a card. I don't think it does enough. I mean, there's already 2 in the main, but it just doesn't really lock you out. It gives you Shroud. I guess, does that shut anything off? Maybe that shuts off Intuition. But
it shuts off Intuition, that is a funny interaction. But I think like the end goal of the Replenish deck obviously being you have no permanence, and I will attack you with stuff. Unless the Solitary Confinement has double Sterling Grove in play or whatever, then maybe it's then you can prevent damage. But like, so maybe you keep 1. I don't think you.
Yeah. So I guess I should note there are 3 copies of Elephant Grass. I guess those cards are not completely dead because like in that last board state. I guess it depends. I mean, Danny had that infinite mana that you could. I'm trying to think how timing works. If like when you'd be able to pay for it and do that in a certain phase. But Elephant Grass is not a particularly good enchantment because you have to upkeep it, and in general, Danny's not attacking, like chipping in for damage. So 3 copies of that are probably going out. But yeah, I guess Ivan's game plan really hasn't drastically changed. I mean, the enchantment removals are fine, but they don't really stop what Danny's trying to do. Like, there aren't Tormod's Crypts, or I guess what are the counter magics or attunement, or not attunements, abeyance. There's no really heavy hitters, I think, in Ivan's list to bring in.
No, yeah, Aura of Silence can be good. If he can't find, if Danny can't find his Replenish, then that might help. Like, and it stops an attunement from coming down over and over, maybe. But yeah, no, it's tough one here.
Yeah, and then Danny's sideboard is pretty. I don't know what the word I want to say is, like, consistent or basic. I don't know. It's just 4, 4, 4, 2, 1. So the 4 Exalted Angel, 4 Orim's Chant, 4 Chill, 2 Tsabo's Web, and 1 Powder Keg. I guess he's really focused on certain matchups, like the Orim's Chant against like certain combo lists, the Chill against red decks, and then I guess Exalted Angel can come in against a number of strategies. Like if your opponent is good at removing, I guess it's kind of that gameplay of that cat and mouse of, do you take out all your creature removal, and now I just have a kind of an easy way to win.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't even know. I guess the Orim's Chant we talked about, because you said the Swords of Plowshares just don't do very much. So that's probably the best upgrade. And I mean, the Orim's Chants are fine, but I mean, like, they're not game breaking. But I guess in a matchup where a turn can be really big, can make a big difference, Orim's Chant is worth the card.
Yeah, and I think it's just like Swords of Plowshares does just nothing, right? Especially with, that they don't have any tricky creatures in their sideboard or anything. I mean, they have Xanted Swarm, but that's stopping instants. You don't really play any other than Intuition and Stifle. So like just having the Chant makes it easy upgrade for that Swords of Plowshares.
Yeah. All right, I'll reset my life totals. Looks like players are shuffling up. Ivan showing off some of his shiny cards. I didn't see what, I think it was a Sacred Ground. Probably a 7th edition one. I think that's the only old frame foil version. And I know the 7th edition foils are pretty tough to find, so
they are expensive. Yeah. So I saw in the chat here, so I mentioned Double Grove plus Worship as another path to victory. But am I mistaken? I don't think I saw Worship in Ivan's Enchantress list at all.
No, that's not in the 75. Yeah, it's something that I've seen. I mean, in both. Sometimes it's included one in the main, because you have the Argothian Enchantress, and a lot of times, like against certain decks, that is kind of an easy way to basically win. It's more of a way to not die, but and then sometimes you'll see it in the sideboard. But yeah, Ivan not playing a single copy of Worship in any of his 75.
Yeah. All right, so looks like Ivan might be heading to London.
Okay. So Ivan's playmat is very fitting for his deck. Danny's is not so much. So I guess maybe he's just in support of Black Friday. That's what it is.
Yeah, that must be it. Yeah. Out of that, trying to play a mind game, which in open deck lists, may not work out as well as you'd hope.
Maybe he's just like, I don't have a City of Traitors or Ancient Tomb playmat. This is my best representation.
Fast mana, yeah. All right, so let's see if the one card going down. I think that means we're keeping. Yep, here we go.
All right, that's a turn 1 Exploration, and then the second land he played is a Sarah Sanctum. So Exploration, I know, is a card that like I've seen in a lot of Enchantress lists. I mean, it's fluctuate in terms of the number of copies. It's really good like when you're going off, but I feel like a lot of the times, like starting off, it's usually harder to kind of get the value out of it. So it's fine. It's usually, I think, it's like a means to an end. Like it doesn't help you like in the first few turns. It helps you in like turn 5 through 6.
Yeah, because I guess the Enchantress deck is not really a ramp deck, right? There's not like, I'm trying to get to my 4 mana spell or anything.
Yeah, so. and we see Ivan playing here. Like the reason why it's especially good in the spot is like he has the Sarah Sanctum, and you getting an extra land and then getting an extra enchantment in play can provide for an explosive trigger. Like the amount of mana he has right now, there's a Wild Growth Exploration and a Mirri's Guile, and now he's committing another Wild Growth. I'm trying to count the mana. The Sarah Sanctum makes 4, plus an additional one from the wild growth, so it would make 5
Mhm.
mana. So tons of mana, but it looked like he passed the turn without doing
Yeah.
anything there.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think he's looking for the Mirri's Guile to find kind of an engine piece.
Mhm. Yeah, and like you said, like the exploration. So he played the extra land on turn one, but then he's had 2 turns since and not played a single land. So like, then
Yeah,
the
the other
exploration
issue I kind
came.
of see is like, I mean, I don't know how many cards Ivan has in hand, but even if he gets one of those engine cards, if he's used a lot of the enchantments, he won't have like that initial enchantment to kick things off, have that steam engine going. So
Yeah, and then so he's showing us 2 cards in hand, which makes sense, right? That he's got 6 in play, was a mulligan on the play, had just had his 3rd turn, so everything checks out.
all right, so Frantic Search is going to get cast by Danny. Not only does this draw some extra cards, but it ends up producing extra mana thanks to the Ancient Tomb.
Yeah, floating one here. A white, seemingly.
Yeah, I don't know if it's been an innovation because I think I've seen it in a lot of the lists for a while now. But Skycloud Expanse was a card that wasn't a 4 of in a lot of lists a while ago. But now I think most people have adopted it, that the deck utilizes it well enough, and especially in situations like this where you can tap it multiple times and filter colorless mana into both blue and white. You see 4 copies in most of the lists now.
So this is an interesting, like an early replenish here, but now with kind of both the Opalescence and the Parallax Wave.
Yeah, and with no protection from Ivan that we saw before was the Seal Cleansing and the double Sterling Grove. Neither of those cards in play. I guess you would need to have 2 Sterling Grove because 1 Sterling Grove wouldn't be enough in this situation. Danny is going to be able to undo all the work that Ivan had done before. Yeah, so the Opalescence is global enchantments, so that's like non-aura enchantments. So the wild growth ones are not creatures. So those are not eligible to be targeted with the Parallax Wave.
Yeah, and so Ivan put these enchantments off to the side entirely, right? They are exiled while the Parallax Wave still sits on 5, and that's for those of you not familiar, because Parallax Wave is also a creature thanks to the Opalescence, you can target the opposing enchantments and then target Parallax Wave itself. So Parallax Wave will exile itself, come back, and then you'll resolve the 2 targets on the opposing enchantments. So those are gone forever because they will never be returned.
Yeah. So Danny is in a great position here. It's kind of tough because any enchantment that Ivan puts into play at this point is going to be like, if it's a, as long as it's not a wild growth, it's going to be a card that's going to be able to be targeted by this wave. So I think he kind of needs to find a Seal Cleansing or an Aura Silence.
Yeah, I was thinking that also, but he found an Enchantress presence here.
So maybe that means that he already has that card in his hand.
Maybe, yeah, that would make some sense.
All right, so this Serra Sanctum taps for 3 mana, white, white, green.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to tap all our mana, so it's white, white, green, green, green. Here we see Enchantress. I guess he's going to maintain priority. So he's willing to lose the Enchantress presence forever in order to guarantee 1 card draw. Okay, so yeah, the Enchantress presence will get exiled, but he will get a card. And now that Seal Cleansing comes into play, and you kind of have to use it now because otherwise Danny's going to try and exile it.
Yeah, it just forces the issue, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't use it, then you just give Danny the option of making you activate it whenever he wants rather than whenever you want. So probably better to just
do
it immediately.
But now it's kind of funny. Like before, we saw Danny like really low on cards in hand, but now he has the ability to cast double white spells and double blue spells. So cards like Parallax Tide, Replenish, and Opalescence are all really good from the spot.
Yeah, well, Parallax Tide here would be pretty devastating, I think.
Yes.
So I see an island added to the board here. And what follows it up?
Attunement. So likely does not have the cards exactly that he's looking for right now. He'll go to Attunement to see if he can go digging. I still think, I mean, Danny has a bit of time. I mean, like, Ivan doesn't have any engine in play. I mean, from Ivan's perspective, I mean, it's good that he was able to get rid of the Opalescence, but he probably only has a few turns. And especially if Ivan isn't able to put down an Argothian Enchantress or another Enchantress presence, I don't like his ability to kind of like go off.
Oh, and I think Danny here looking to discard an Opalescence among other stuff. It's not a great sign.
Yeah, I mean, that has to be an indication that there's a Replenish coming.
Another one, yeah. And yep, there we see it.
So the attacking Parallax Wave will get in for 4, and then it gets to untap itself by exiling itself. And now we get to... okay, we're just using Seal Cleansing on a Wild Growth. Okay.
Yeah. And now there are two Opalescences in play.
Yes. So one Seal of Cleansing will not be enough from Ivan's perspective.
Yeah.
A Ray of Revelation... I guess no, because now you have the ability to exile one of they're both creatures.
Yeah, it's a big game here. I think, like, because now you tuck an Opalescence under the Parallax Wave in response and still exile your own Parallax Wave because the other Opalescence will make it a creature, which
so an attack from Danny would put Ivan to 1, and then Ivan shows a couple of replenishes that were in his hand. Not very good when your enchantments get exiled. So
yeah,
unfortunately for Ivan, I think the matchup played out just as he expects. He's pretty familiar, as he had noted that this was one of his worst matchups, and Danny was in pretty much complete control. I mean, like the first game, Ivan did pretty much as good of a defense as you can expect with a double Sterling Grove and a Seal of Cleansing, and Danny was still able to kind of churn through his deck and muscle his way through that resistance. So the first game, I would say Ivan like put up a good fight, and then like the second game is probably closer to what you expect out of this matchup because it's tough. It's tough from the Enchantress perspective.
Yeah, rough. Yeah, and I think Ivan not seeing any kind of Enchantresses in either game really, right? Like, he found an Enchantress presence but could only get a single card off of it. Like that first game, if you have those double Sterling Groves and you have an Enchantress, maybe, right? Like you can start snowballing, maybe get enough permanents out in front of Danny putting all those enchantments in play, but yeah, was not meant to be.
All right, I'm going to jump down to our players and see if they are chatting about. We're going to have a little bit of time to chat with our players and talk about the matchup or just maybe their tournament experience before we let them go. Let's see if I can find the scene that I need. Here we go. And I will unmute the players.
This list, right? Because I cannot remove it. It will make your elements all way better. So.
But then you can play around it as well. You can remove everything except of her, but yeah, you have to aim for double growth. Double growth is very important.
Yeah, that's true. Double growth. Yeah. Carpet's also a bit tricky. I don't know. I'm not playing that many islands.
I know.
Before,
I know. Yeah. I was like, if I have double growth with carpet, it's quite nice.
That's true. Yeah.
And that's what I thought. I had enough to remove my 3 grass, my mobilization, and my sacred grounds. So I had enough space to put in the carpet as well.
I'm going to unmute the guys. So
Yes. Good point.
I can hear Michael. Should I also unmute Jay, or
Yeah,
should I
yep,
just
yep, you can
only
unmute.
unmute Michael?
Unmute us both. Yep.
Yeah.
Unless you just
Yep.
really don't want to hear from me.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Thanks, Michael. I will just unmute only.
Yeah, I was just saying, Ivan, unfortunately for you, that matchup played out, I think, just as you expected. Really, the first game was probably as close to as what you needed to see, and Danny was able to muscle through what you provided. But yeah, not your favorite matchup, I would guess.
That's totally correct. I mean, game 1, my hand was, I had everything except of acceleration. I had my combo in hand, and that was my I tried to make it work with, I had double growth, or I saw double growth. I had Tutor, I had the Parallax Wave, Opalescence, everything. So in this matchup, you basically don't need the draw engine, but you need your combo as quick as possible, or establish the double growth. Unfortunately, this version currently doesn't have Warship, so I couldn't play around with double growth and Warship when I saw the Tutor. But in this case, yeah. And game 2, Lenny Lenny was capable of showing what Replenish is known for. So totally fine on that.
Yeah, we were mentioning our Swiss match, because I also mentioned because we had like a match where I drew very poorly because, well, sometimes the Replenish deck isn't as consistent, right? And then we had like an insane board state of double waves on both sides and an Opalescence on both sides. And it was like, yeah, I target your wave, and then wait, how many counters on your wave? Well,
Yes.
that's what that are like the fun games, but yeah, most of the time it's a bit like this. I'm really sorry. This is like by far my best matchup in Premodern.
Okay.
It is
for the Replenish deck. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just say that's a reward for getting the 1 seed, is you get that matchup that you really wanted. So yeah.
Yeah, maybe it is. Yeah.
Yeah, we mentioned as well, this was Danny's 1-up for the finals, so of course Danny is has to bring the title back to Europe, or bring the title to Europe.
Yes, I'm the sole European now.
Yeah, we had, I think it's 6 Americans, and the 2 Europeans played off against each other in the first quarterfinals. So yeah.
Yeah, you did manage to get us crossed immediately, Michael.
I would say, from my perspective, it's convenient because then the scheduling the times is a little bit easier for me. But
right.
I will try to make your timing as hard as possible.
Yeah, yeah, but it is always cool, like, to see, like, obviously the pre-modern scene is international, and yeah, it's always cool to see different countries represented in the Fall Brawl and Spring Fling. So
yeah, maybe this is like a side quest, but the Dutch nationals were always won by German guys. And Ivan is from our neighboring country, Germany, so I had to do something, right? So,
a friendly rivalry.
Ron,
Yes.
Ron Dijkstra, who is the organizer of the Youth and Throw Club, also is like, come on, keep it for the Dutchies one time. So,
Danny, maybe you have to strike back at the German nationals and bring time to the Netherlands.
Switch the titles, yeah. I will be definitely playing Replenish in the next one. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, Danny, you'll be moving on, so we are going to see you more, I guess. If there's anything that stands out in this matchup you want to talk about, otherwise I think we kind of like focus on Ivan, because this will be more of his last opportunity to kind of talk about things. Ivan, is there anything you want to share in terms of experiences, or whether it's specifically to this matchup or just in general?
I'm currently brewing, so it really depends. I saw I wasn't sure about Cameron. I think he's a Replenish player, right? So I saw on second place he's playing Replenish. I'm still brewing around Sheltering Prayers. I think we can make it work in Enchantress. It's the 1 white, and it says basic lands can't be targeted. So yeah, I'm not giving up. I tried literally everything against Replenish, but I don't think we should focus with Enchantress against Replenish. We should accept it's a bad matchup, and we should focusing more on making this, 40, 60, 60, 40, whatever matches better for us. So we should accept it is what it is. That's pre-modern. That's totally fine. In response, we get way all the other matchups are quite okay, so winnable and all that kind of stuff. Especially right now with the mono blue stuff going around. I put in Cupboard of Flowers. I put in all the stuff to be a little bit more consistent against the mono blue stuff. This is what I'm focusing on in general right now.
Yeah,
Sheltering Prayers is still a thing.
Okay.
Chris Tucker played around. We played with Abeyance as well. This could be my flex slot. Maybe 1 or 2 Sheltering Prayers as a try. I don't know.
I like kind of how you said, like, you can't win every matchup, and I know that it's definitely a temptation is to have your sideboard of like to try and fix every matchup, and sometimes that isn't necessarily the best approach, especially if like some cards will help your matchup, obviously, but maybe not to the point where it's still positive. And so it's better just to kind of face and say, this is just a matchup I'm going to try and avoid. Unfortunately, like I feel like Replenish is on the upswing, that people are playing it more. But I mean, it's something that you have to deal with, I think, when you play any deck, that there are going to be certain matchups that you just don't want to see. So
I still think, I think till today, Replenish is way underplayed. After some podcasts and some recommendations for the bigger tournament from you guys from North America, I think Replenish and also Stifle is way more popular in North America or outside Europe. I think it's still underplayed, and especially if you check the Euro last time and also the German, the Universal Champs. No, I guess we had 2 Replenish, I'm 2 for sure,
yeah.
and not that much at the Euro, so it's still underplayed. And if you buy gold bordered, for example, Replenish is not that expensive,
Right.
so it's still a tough deck. It's like Enchantress, so both decks are looking or working kind of the same. They have the same mechanics and how they play as well. They're a little bit weak early on. And we also talked with Danny. I guess he has to, all the Attunement and Frantic Search stuff. I have a little bit more of using my toolbox, but both decks are very, very similar. So both decks have the same weak spots, and both decks are looking quite easy, right? You're playing Opalescence Wave and that's it, or playing Tide and that's it, but that's not the case. And I think people are struggling, or they're buying the cards and they're struggling a little bit or giving up too quickly. So I mentioned in my podcast as well, you need those reps with both decks, especially with Replenish as well. Elves is in the same category, and Enchantress as well. It's not just about the engine, it's more about, okay, how you're winning in this situation. So I think to coming, a conclusion is Replenish is still underplayed. It's one of the strongest decks, if not the strongest deck.
And I like how Ivan just mentioned casually all decks that I love. So Elves,
Yes.
Enchantress, basically for the same reason that Ivan loves it as well.
Ivan, you should be, especially here and on your podcast, if you're trying to win more with these Enchantress deck, you should be praising like Landsteal or something. Give Replenish more, like, oh, more elf
Right.
players.
Right. No, we all want. That's totally no. We saw. We mentioned it in our last episode, which is coming in tomorrow, I guess. We had like last month. Lansdaal is on a rise a little bit, or was on a rise last month. So let's see what's going on with Lansdaal. But I think the guys are switching to maybe mono blue, which is a brutal deck. Which makes totally sense. It's well, I'm not a Lansdaal player. I don't know. But it's my gut feeling that people are switching to the mono blue stuff, which is a really, really strong deck currently. But sure, I would love to see more Lansdaal.
I don't. Just it's fine. No, but that's true. What I like about the approach is not try to beat a deck that's like a really loose matchup. Like try to fix it, and if it doesn't work, don't try to dilute your whole sideboard. Because I talked to Rich Shea as well for the Replenish deck. I'm playing the Replenish version, and we have like a Discord of Replenish players. And if we only had 25 sideboard cards, like every matchup would be fixed in the whole format. But sadly, it's not the case. I really want Effect of Fiction somewhere in the 75. I just don't have any room. So that's also one of the nice things, right? Otherwise, you have like a fixed deck that wins.
It's so cool that you have this Replenish camp. We on the Enchantress, we was like on the Discord where Chris put in 3 Tormund script, 3 auras, 2 Tormund script, like 5 slots, so 1/3 of your slots against Replenish, because it's so frustrating to lose against like an auto lose. But I mean, this brings me to the back to the point is how often do you really face Replenish? How often is it in the top 8? So if you go like 6-2 like right now, or 7-1 or whatever, you can lose one. It's totally okay. Win the rest, focus on the rest, and it's totally fine. So and I tried together with the other guys from the Discord. We tried everything. I tried to splash blue with Meddling Mage sideboards. I tried also put in Tide in the main board, everything. But no, let's keep it as streamlined as is right now. I guess we are on a good way and focusing on winning the rest.
Have you tried cutting the green cards and then adding a couple of attunements?
Yes.
Oh, this peak performance. This is it, right?
It's Rick.
That could make your Replenish matchup 50-50 then, right?
Yeah.
At least.
Finally, we solved it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Oh well.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go back to chat to see if they had any questions for the players or anything about the match.
Hey, I got infinite mana, guys. Is that like a scrap on your sheet? Somebody has infinite mana, or?
Yeah, I was gonna say like when that happened, I wasn't sure if that was during the upkeep, because then you'd only be able to intuition and get the cards, and then you wouldn't have infinite mana to use it later. But I guess it must have been during the main phase, right?
Yeah, I cast
Yep.
Replenish, and
Okay.
at that point I have infinite mana. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
It was a bit of it was needed, but it's still it wins on the spot there, so it's
Yeah, that was
I
pretty
scratched
good.
it off my bucket list, getting instant mana.
is that something that you haven't done with the Replenish deck?
No, I
Or
can
like
say
didn't
no,
I
but
guess you
have-
haven't needed to in most of the spots. Like I guess you've obviously had the option to do that, but like it just wasn't relevant.
It was actually relevant now. I think this is one of the first or second times, but
Okay.
bear in mind,
Crazy. Okay.
I've been playing Replenish for 6 months straight, so it could
Okay.
be a more. I played a little bit too much Replenish for the sake of playing Magic, I guess.
Okay. So we got to see one of the rare chances where the infinite
Cool.
mana was necessary for the
Yeah,
execution.
was actually relevant. Sometimes you just do it, but it's
Yeah.
not really relevant.
Are there any other like weird corner cases or things that like don't normally happen? I guess you talked about like the Parallax Tide fighting where it was kind of like actually the counters kind of mattered. Were there other instances that you played like in this tournament that weird things came up?
Well, I had to Skyfall a card, and I thought I knew all the Premodern cards, but there basically is a red 2-drop from Alliances that
Yes.
rampages or something or makes creatures.
It gives in my or in your upkeep, like in I'm not sure if it's opponent's upkeep
Yeah,
or.
of course,
my
Ivan knows the card, right? Like this is of course you know this.
and it gives a 1/1 soldier, right?
Oh,
and it's a cumulative. So next turn you get 2. And
The
then
2 mana 3/4 trample rampaging guy.
Varchal's War Riders.
Yeah. I don't even know how to spell that.
Exactly. So
We have
my
somebody in the
opponent said
Discord. We have
Varchal's War thingy, and then I had to like Scryfall for 5 times because which card is actually named Varchal? Oh, come on.
Nice.
I mean, it's amazing if you have it with the Plague Spitter guy, right? Then it's
He actually played the Plague Spitter guy, so I was like, okay, can I source the Plowshare this? Yes, okay. I'll source the Plowshare.
Nice.
I'm sorry.
So
Most matches for me have been about the sideboard cards,
Okay.
like the Chill versus red decks and the Angels versus all the rock decks. And versus Ivan in the Swiss, I had Orim's Chant, which were really insane there, because Ray of Revelation was in the graveyard, then you can Chant, so no Ray, and then you play Replenish and win the game. So Chant was also really good. Chance. Chance is the Dutch way. Chance.
There was this one turn in game 3. We had a really intense game 2 and game 3. And this one, the Orm's Chant was amazing. There was perfect Orm's Chant in that situation. Yeah.
So Ivan, do you have any bucket list item that you're trying to hit with this Enchantress deck before you move on to the next one?
So I like Danny mentioned, I have an elf deck here. I have the green-white slide brewing around a little bit. I have Replenish as well. But all those decks, it's kind of the same principle, but it doesn't give me the same vibes as Enchantress. I don't know. Maybe it's because it's you can change here and there some stuff due to the meta, and it's never finished. So of course I want to win a bigger tournament with Enchantress. That's on my list as well. And still I want to represent the Europe with Enchantress. So this is I think a lifetime stuff. So it's never be done. And furthermore, I was quite happy to I recorded it as well. Make like I played against the rock guy, and he had a Wall of Blossoms, and I could deck him with the Wall of Blossoms.
That's so nice amazing. When that happens.
It happened during the Fall Brawl. It happened last month on a smaller local tournament. It's absolutely cool. It's if you have everything, and this is what I mentioned with Enchantress. If you have everything in your hand and you have basically the combo, and he's playing Wall of Blossoms, and you have it. And I also mentioned it. I said I have everything. I'm not sure if you can win. And was like, yeah, maybe I have something in my deck. And was like, yeah, maybe you can draw it in a bit. I will show you. Then it was a little bit too late.
I did the same trick, Ivan, with the Plague Spitter. So I'll just ping, ping, ping.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Ping,
yes.
Ping.
That's good.
Nice. Oh, that's cool.
Some good interaction in Premodern for sure.
Yeah, just a fair Magic card that Garfield intended. Parallax Tide, Parallax Wave. That's exactly how it works.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep, I think that answers all the questions I had. I want to thank both the players for making the time to play this. Unfortunately for Ivan, the matchup didn't go the way you wanted, but it was good to have you on and good to talk to you. It was nice to hear your perspective of things, and I'm sure we'll see you again if you continue to pilot that Enchantress list. So it probably won't be long till you'll be back. So.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for all of you organizing the Fall Brawl into Spring Fling. Yeah. And it's a big, or in general, what you guys do is a big. It helps for the community. It helps to grow Premodern, and it's absolutely amazing.
All right. And then Danny, we'll be in touch as we'll be scheduling your semifinal. We still have to figure out who your opponent is. Do you know? So on your side of the bracket, who are the two players? Is there are you rooting for a certain player to win?
I know Rich is on my side, but I'm not sure what he's facing.
Okay, so Rich is playing Mono Blue Stifle Knot, and he's up against Phil Nguyen, who is playing Raging Glaciers.
Phil. Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. These are the guys that I actually really like to talk to. I sometimes ask things for Rich is more on the spiky stuff. So when I just think I need 60 random cards in Premodern, Phil, can you hand me some random list? And then I get False Cure is actually really special, and then I get 60 random pile cards. So I'm actually rooting for Phil in this one because I really love his decks.
Sure,
but it would also be nice to play against Rich. I haven't faced him in the webcam webcam tourneys yet. So it'll be fun to face him. I guess the decks.
Well, I will say, so when I was talking to Phil and Rich, and Phil just assumed that Rich was playing Replenish because Rich has been doing so well with it, and he's like, "Oh man, you are just gonna crush me. This is like one of my worst matchups." While Rich is not playing the Replenish list, but you are, Danny. So if Phil does manage to beat Rich, I think he's gonna have an uphill battle against you. So.
I guess so. The matchup versus Stifle Knot with Replenish is a really good watch as well. So I think for the viewers that's an insane match to actually watch.
Okay.
If you want me to win or defend European titles, I will gladly go against Phil's Raging Glaciers deck. Yeah.
All right. So we'll have to wait to see who you're up against, and then we'll let everybody know when that is scheduled, but we will look forward to seeing that in the near future. Thank you, players. Also, thank you, Jay, for stepping in the booth and doing some commentary with me. Had a lot of fun, and thanks everyone who's able to tune in live. Otherwise, thanks for watching the videos. Have a lot of fun doing this, but I'm ready to call it. I always say I might be doing some other matches later today. I'm working with the other players for the other quarterfinals, so there might be more Fall Brawl later today. So those who are watching the stream right now, stay tuned.
I'm going to rewatch Phil's deck. I'm rooting for Phil with his pillages, his 12/12. Oh, it will be so sweet.
Okay. All right. So with that, yeah, just want to say thank you, everyone. But until next time, take care.